Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery's live stream. I'm Ajahn Sona, and today our interrogator will be metta. We've transferred off from Pia to metta, so feel free to submit your questions in the chat bar, although really that's the wrong name for something that should be sober and serious, not a chat bar, a philosophy bar. So let's go with the first question, Metta.
Yes, Ajahn. The first question is from the question bar, and that's going to be from Nils from Brazil. Dear Ajahn, in the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha gives a suggestion on how to spend one's wealth, but times have changed. Could Ajahn please offer updated advice on managing one's money?
Yes, well, I recommend that you read the Sigalovada Sutta or Sigalika Sutta. It's in the longer length sayings. Do you remember the number? It's at 21 or something like that.
31.
31, Sutta 31. So the longer length sayings, the Digha Nikaya have 34 suttas, I think. And number 31 is very informative for the layperson's life. Tells you how really skillful ways of living and avoiding trouble. So Nils wants to know whether the advice given about money management in there is still relevant. And yes, it is. Nothing has changed. It recommends that, first of all, if you're in the position of a person who has people working for them, that you pay them fair wages and that you take care of them, make sure that their life is good, and and of course you should expect also that they will show up on time and so forth. Maybe you're referring to the fact that nobody wants to go to the office anymore. This phenomenon of a quiet quitting, and so people not doing their jobs, and then boss is demanding too much of them and so forth. So it's basically a marvelously ethical treatment of your employers, and if you are one who is being employed, then your relationship to the person who hired you or the boss, etc., is one of being a good worker. As far as your money goes, now this tells you that in the time of the Buddha, there was a fair number of people who were doing business, what we would call businessmen. They traded in various items and took risky journeys to nearby countries to exchange various objects, and they brought back other objects, and they had to sometimes go through risky country with bandits and so forth. And they had to avoid the tariffs as well. Wink, wink. So business was not frowned upon by the Buddha. Making your livelihood by intelligence or by the strength of arm was good. So if you were a farmer, you had to get out there early, and you had to know what you were doing. So the Buddha also talks about the skills and the knowledge that a farmer has, and that they don't rely on prayer to bring crops in, but they rely on their diligent labor and knowledge of how things work. And the same with businesses. You need to be competent, you need to save money when you need to, and spend money when you need to. So he talks about investing. Actually, I think it's two parts of your money. Now, you basically, first of all, you have to have a place to live and food on the table and clothes. So obviously, a portion of your money is going to go to just making sure that you're housed and fed and clothed, and some for medicine. Now, you can't do anything. If you don't have any money beyond that, there's nothing you have no money to do anything with. But if you have money beyond that, then how should you treat the rest of that money? You should invest some. So the idea of investment, like using money to make money, the Buddha was aware of this. But you can't just risk it all either. You shouldn't risk it all. You need some in savings as well. And then there is another dimension to Buddhist life, and that is you have a relationship to monasteries and charities. So you need to also, sometimes your relatives have need. It's not going so well for them, and you might need to lend them some money or give them some money. So charity. So one part of your money is used for investment, thoughtful investment, improving your business or buying some more land or something. The second part of your money is to be saved for unforeseen circumstances. You never know when the economy is going to change, or a tornado is going to come through, a monsoon or something, wipe everything out. You need to have money for that. And then you actually need to enjoy your life as well. As a layperson, you might want to have a holiday. You might want to go and visit your relatives in some way and take your children with you. So it was done in the 5th century BC, and it's done to this day. You enjoy yourself. You go and try some different foods and travel around a bit. And then your duty as well is, for your own benefit and for your future well-being, is to invest in charity. So from a Buddhist point of view, there's very high return on investment of goodwill and funding monasteries and charities. So there's centers that feed the poor. You can donate to centers that feed the poor. You can donate to hospitals. You can, even animal welfare. There are all kinds of places that take care of animals. By the way, one of the first times in history that there were such a thing as animal hospitals was shortly after the time of the Buddha. The Emperor Asoka in India opened hospitals for animals, so farmers that had ailing animals could bring them to a center where there were animal veterinarians and so forth. So they developed a sense of compassion for this. To this day, in some societies and some religious views, animals are just not thought of. They're discarded as kind of objects. But from a Buddhist point of view, they're included, they're sensitive beings. So one can donate for kindness to humans. Of course, there's orphanages and there's hospitals and taking care of the elderly as well. One of the things that you should do, according to the Sigalovada Sutta, is to donate in the name of your parents. If your parents pass away, you should do charitable acts in their name. So we see this in other religious traditions as well. Their parents pass away and they donate for a whole library in the name of Robert Brown or somebody like that, or a cultural center. Lots of people, if they have the money, the wealth, they remember their parents through acts of charity, and especially from a Buddhist point of view, there is thought to be a real connection. Even though people pass away, you still are connected. They just passed away into another existence, and you're still connected to them, and they can still feel the positive energy of loving kindness and generosity. And so in the Buddhist tradition, there's many opportunities to come to monasteries and offer food to the monks with the thought of this is in the name of my parents or in the name of a departed relative, maybe even children who have departed. You do these acts of charity in their name. So business, you take care of your business. You're smart enough to save some for emergency situations or unforeseen circumstances. You enjoy your life, so you're not stingy with yourself either. You do spend money on yourself, trying to do something that you enjoy. And fourthly, you have an obligation to yourself and to others to share your wealth if you have any. Not everybody has anything to share, but if you have some left over, then you should share it. It will immediately produce a sense of positive energy in your own life, and it will benefit others, and it will stimulate others to also practice generosity, because one who's generous is admired and praised by the wise. It's an act of courage, and hoarding your money and never giving any, sharing any of it is a form of cowardice. You're afraid that you might not have money, so you keep it all yourself. And somebody who says, well, I don't know whether I'll have money in the future, but I'm going to share. I have more than enough now, so I'm going to share some. So this is an act of what we call generosity, but it also is an act of not necessarily courage, but fearlessness, non-fear. Hoarding is fearful. Generosity is non-fearful. And so to live a life of fear is a suffering. To live a life of non-fear is not to suffer. And so you're the beneficiary of generous intentions and actions. So, Nils, things have not changed. All of those things are still appropriate today. The only thing that's changed is cryptocurrency. Yeah.
The next question from the live chat is from Moria from Northern California, United States. Can you please define what mindfulness is without the use of mental noting? I have been taught that if I don't mentally note experiences, I am not truly being mindful. I now feel worried to stop noting. I want to develop metta and breath meditation, but the belief that I need to note everything is stalling my progress. Can I be mindful without noting?
Yeah, you should note, I'm afraid to not note. Don't be afraid to not note. Noting is just, I think it was an interesting idea. It seemed to originate in Burma or Myanmar with Mahasi Sayadaw technique, and it was part of this Vipassana movement, which for many people, like Buddhist meditation is synonymous with this word Vipassana, but that's a particular time in history. It actually does not go back that far, maybe late 19th century, early 20th century. In Myanmar, there was a movement to start teaching lay people to meditate. And I think it was one of the kings requested the senior monks to develop some sort of meditation practice for lay people. Because in different times in Buddhist history, lay people don't meditate. And maybe only monks meditate. And the lay people would come and offer food to the monks, or listen to some chanting, maybe listen to a Dhamma talk and go home. And other times in Buddhist history, there's the idea that lay people meditate. And so it was a kind of a revival movement where monks would actually give courses, up to 10 days or even longer, for lay people to come to a monastery or retreat center and learn to meditate. Then the monks sat down and decided, well, they don't have time to develop deep samadhi. That you have to be in in a certain environment for a long time to be able to develop the samadhi, the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path, jhana. So we have to give them some insight, something that changes their lives soon. So we'll focus on vipassana, which is the word vipassana only means to see clearly, just to see very, very clearly. And everything's impermanent. It's without substance. It's transient. So it's unsatisfactory. This is what we will teach, and we will keep their attention on things that change. Now, their minds are going to be distracted because this is the way the human mind is. So we'll give them a little technique so when a dog is barking in the distance, we will just say to yourself maybe twice, barking, barking, and then let it go. And so note, pain in the knee, something like this. It is a technique, interesting. Sure, it's a technique, but it's actually not mentioned by the Buddha. Noting is not in the suttas. Awareness is in the suttas, so one is aware of various things, but it's never indicated that you would put it into language. You say noting, or barking, or sound. This is a particular technique, and it's associated with a specific school. It's not taught universally amongst meditation schools and so forth. So if that's how you were introduced to it, you think that that's Buddhism, that you have to do that, but you don't have to do that. So my own teacher, Bhante Gunaratana, he's in fact, there's a book called Mindfulness in Plain English that he wrote many, many years ago now, 35 years ago or more. And it's very popular. It's out there on Amazon. You can download it and so forth. And he specifically mentions he was a teacher of this technique. In the 1950s, early 60s, he actually taught that Vipassana technique, and he taught noting. But he's a Sri Lankan monk, and he was in the robes when he was even a boy, like 12 years old. He was a novice, and a very bright man, and he, of course, became fluent in the Pali canon. Reads and understands fluently in the canon, and of course, his whole education was around this. At some point, he realized that this technique is not mentioned in there. And he thought, well, by the time you come up with a name or a label for something that's going on in your mind, the mind works very fast. It's flowing all the time. By the time you get a name for what's going on in there, it's already something else going on. So you finally got the words dog barking, and by that time, you're already thinking about what's for lunch tomorrow, And then, so it's really not keeping up. It's more or less interfering. So he decided to abandon that. He abandoned the noting. So this is a process, and monks will go through this at various times. They will be part of a certain school of practice. And then if they're wise, though, they will always go back to the suttas and read the suttas and say, is this a new innovation? Is this a different is this an extra version of this? Or is this in contradiction to anything? So they will evolve. And the same with lay people. They will go to one school of practice, and then they will try another school and find out that there's a different way of doing things. So again, I don't teach that noting practice. It's not a bad thing. You can say, as a beginning of things. It's a way of managing the mind, because usually most people's mind is wildly out of control when they first try to meditate. It's just like they're insane. It's just the mind is all over the place. So it's something you can grab onto, but you don't want to keep doing that too long. It's kind of like dancing. If you have to learn to dance, they slowly go through where you put your foot this way and you put your foot that way, and move this way and that way. But that, at some point, you have to forget that and just dance. So you can let go of these Arthur Murray dance lessons at some point, the noting, and just be aware of what's going on. And not only just aware, so I talk a lot about mindfulness and what mindfulness is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be incorporating right effort. So mindfulness, as taught generally, especially in the lay communities, is simply about paying attention, but in Buddhist mindfulness, it's right mindfulness. And it means that it's supposed to be doing something specific, and it's supposed to be paying attention to unwholesome things that arise, the 5 hindrances, and preventing and removing those, and then paying attention to wholesome activities of the mind, preserving and developing those. So that's in right effort. So right effort comes before right mindfulness. But if you skip over right effort, you don't know what mindfulness is supposed to be doing. You think, oh, mindfulness is noting everything. No, it's not noting everything. It's being aware when the 5 hindrances, the nivaranas, are there, and not just aware, but remove them. Prevent them, remove them, and then aware when the wholesome states are there. Any of the 7 factors of awakening, so forth. When they're there, you're to preserve and develop and strengthen them. And so mindfulness is just a servant for this. It's not a thing in itself. It's not observation in itself is necessary, and you need to strengthen it, but it has a function, and it assists with right effort. So that's how you think about it. But you can just forget. Don't worry about the noting thing. It's you're bogged down in that noting. You're afraid to not note. Let's get rid of it. Yeah. Let's go on to the next question.
The next question from the live chat is from Abstract Mind. Upon close examination of the concept of jhana, I can see that it too is ultimately a sankhara, anicca, and dukkha, despite being very sublime and pleasant in the moment. Is this akin to form beings falling off? Is the goal to ultimately go after the root cause of it all? As theoretically, with the cessation of all fabrications, arriving at emptiness, grasping at nothing, mind becomes free.
Yes, but we shouldn't diminish the importance of this jhana. If you're fortunate enough to attain it, I think a lot of people don't appreciate how special this samadhi and jhana is. They read a description of it, and then they think, "Oh, I have jhana. I did jhana," and so forth. But usually they're overestimating themselves. They're not aware of what it is. Jhana is really a pretty high level of mental acuity. It's like you're on the, at least on the national team heading for the Olympics, It's not easy to control the mind like that. Is quite a feat. You need to develop the preliminary causes for that, which is a very high level of ethical behavior, very careful speech and actions, very great commitment to morality and virtue, and have eliminated the negative tendencies of the mind and strengthened mindfulness tremendously, because mindfulness is what leads to the samadhi. So a lot of practice usually. And then it is very blissful. Yes, it is. It can't be anything but blissful. It is, by its nature, is very blissful. But you see some schools kind of dismissing this. It's just the blissful. It's just what yogis do. It's, it doesn't go anywhere. No, that's not. I mean, why is it in the path? Why is it the 8th factor of the Eightfold Path? Because if you understand right view to begin with, you have to know what right view is. Then the Buddha says that For one who has samadhi, the jhana, there is no need to wish, may wisdom arise. Wisdom naturally rises and swells out of samadhi. So it naturally follows insight and knowledge and liberation are the 9th and 10th factors of the tenfold path. By the way, mostly we talk about the eightfold path. But the Buddha talks about tenfold path sometimes. The tenfold path is just returning to right view and knowledge. So it goes from right view up to right samadhi, and then it curls back on itself to right view again. After samadhi, then right view is strengthened to the point of knowledge, and knowledge is strengthened to the point of liberation. So this is a very important step. It's not there for no reason. Why would the Buddha put it there? If it's not necessary, then why does the Buddha put it in the Eightfold Path? Of course, it tells you you're on the right path. Your mind is cleared up. Your hindrances, we call them nivaranas, the 5 hindrances, greed, anger, agitation, sloth, and doubt. These 5 hindrances have been removed from the mind. When those removed because of mindfulness and right effort, they remove them. What's left? The mind is joyful, luminous, light, free, at ease, happy. This is the nature of the mind. So the Buddha says, that's the nature of the mind. It's luminous if it is not being harassed by the hindrances. If just like an animal or a baby or anybody, when they're harassed, if they're in pain or somebody is scolding them or harassing them, they're not happy. But if they get taken out of that place and taken to a nice place where they get fed and they get praised and they take care of, then you see the smile comes to their face, they light up, they feel great. You ask them, are you happy? I'm happy, I'm happy. That's the nature of the mind. That's universal nature of the mind. When the mind is harassed by cruelty and negativity and pain, it is not happy, it suffers. When that is removed, it always returns to this word, a beautiful word called pabasara, which means light and free of suffering. Happy. So we do this to ourselves. Who's harassing us? Not our boss, not our husband, not our wife, not a stranger, it's us. We're harassing ourselves. The mind is harassing itself. It's angry, it's greedy, it's agitated. We can't be happy. So this is the process. So that this samadhi is where it stops harassing itself. It is no longer harassing itself, but it's still awake. So there is another time when you're not harassing yourself, when you're sound asleep and not dreaming, not harassing yourself. But mostly when you're awake or even dreaming, you're harassing yourself. You stop doing that. Samadhi is like a person who is no longer harassing themselves. They have nothing but goodwill for themselves. They take care of themselves. They don't do anything negative to themselves. And that's the beginning. That's close to enlightenment. You're just on the edge of, that's where it should be all the time. Now let's make it all the time. So that's the relationship between the samadhi and wisdom. Yeah.
The next question is from the live chat from D. Venerable Ajahn, did the Buddha ever mention right speech applied to inner monologue, the way we talk to ourselves? That is to say, to direct our own intentions.
Yeah, and just in the previous question and answer, I talked about that. The inner monologue is often you're accusing yourself, you're talking to yourself negatively, or you're talking to yourself falsely. You're lying to yourself. Oh, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, or I'm the worst, I'm worthless. It's both those are lies. Or you're scolding yourself. You bad person, yeah, you idiot. How could you not? This kind of negative talk. This is wrong speech. Don't say that to others, and you shouldn't be saying it to yourself. It's wrong. It's wrong speech. It's just not vocalized, but it's wrong thought is what it is. So these are the 5 hindrances again, and the nature of the mind, and they need to be undone. A lot of people don't know that they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be talking to themselves that way. I think especially young people need to be told that, because I don't know what it is. There's a big reduction in psychological well-being in the young people because of the internet. They spend many hours listening, so they tend to listen to either their peers, like other 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds. If you're 14, somebody who's 18 is very, very impressive to you, Even when you're 7, a 9-year-old seems to be very, they tell you, you should try this, you try it because they told you to, and they're older and they're much, but you shouldn't be listening to any of those. That's not who you listen to. You listen to wise adults, people who are wise. But, teenagers they like somebody closer to their age that's got sparkly clothes or fashion, or they say smart things, the revolutionary, they're very, you want to be like them, sort of thing. So they're listening to the wrong voices and trying to be like them, and they fail because people who are making these videos and stuff on YouTube it's fake, they're dressing up and pretending to have a lot of money and being admired, but it's not true. It's really not true. And you think it's true, and then you feel like you're a failure. There's a lot of psychological, and then there's certain cruel voices on there that are advocating negative things, and the 14-year-old believes it. They believe these things because they're not wise enough to understand what's right and wrong. So this inner dialogue, inner monologue, is full of wrong speech, and this causes even causes suicide sometimes. They talk. Who's talking bad to them? Nobody in their family. They're talking bad to themselves because they're seeing a voice outside on the internet. They're talking a constant criticism of themselves. This is very, very unwise. Young ladies, young women particularly, they have the negative voice. I've given thousands of interviews with people. The women more than the men have the negative, critical voice inside. And they're getting the wrong, because they're more socially aware. Girls are advanced over boys they mature faster. They're a year or two ahead of them, and they're very social, and they understand they pay attention to what's going on, and so that voice is a little amplified in them. Boys are often, it's all right, you're a little bit misbehave and everything. It's kind of your other buddies, it's fine to be misbehave, So they're protected from this, but eventually it catches up with them too, because if they don't succeed and they can't be part of the social situation, they feel very bad. They start to take drugs, alcohol to numb that feeling. So all of this is inner monologue because you're hearing the wrong voice is talking to you. You are associating with the fool. You're listening to the foolish, And that will produce negative results. So the first blessing in life is to stop associating with the foolish. You stop listening to that stuff. Go to the wise. Listen to the wise that encourage you to have loving kindness for yourself. Positive voices within you. Wise, balanced voices within you. That's where you're going. Then you feel better. You feel better, and you think, what was I thinking? The inner voice, the monologue, becomes wise. It generates kindness, clarity, and generosity. And now you know how to live. So that inner monologue is extremely important. The inner monologue is extremely important, but you learn it outside. You come to Ajahn Sona's live stream. And not only the live stream, but I have lots of other whole talks on right speech and attitudes and so forth. So 350 videos up there, all free, anytime, day or night. Don't be focused on this, what do they call it? The Snapchat or the young...
TikTok?
TikTok and there's
Instagram?
Instagram, yeah. The guy, he's 18, he owns 3 Rolls Royces, and he's got 12 girlfriends, and it's enough. Don't listen. Don't go there. Come and spend time with me. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Yes, the next question is from the live chat from H from Bristol, United Kingdom. Dear Ajahn, people who have near-death experiences sometimes report seeing other beings who help them, and sometimes they have a life review. Do these experiences match what the Buddha taught?
Yes, they do. They do match what the Buddha taught. And the Buddha had a cosmology, what happens at the time of death, what happens after death. The details are often in a part of the Buddha, which most people aren't familiar with. It's called Abhidhamma, and it's the third section of the Tipitaka, the 3 baskets of the Buddha's teachings. It's maybe not. Maybe the Buddha didn't say it during his lifetime, but the monks, the smarter monks, the analytical monks, worked out some of these things and spent time, detailing this. So you can get incredible detail about what happens at the time of death and what afterwards. But there's another literature as well. It's fascinating literature, and it is people who remember their past lives. They remember dying, and they remember being reborn. Sometimes in a previous life, and some of these cases are recorded by a psychiatrist called Ian Stevenson. About 2,500 cases, and most of the cases are children who recall their past lives. So when they're maybe 5 years old, or 4 years old, they start talking that they are so and so, and they recall their past lives. So that's an interesting collection because they are not aware of Buddhism or anything like this, and they are unfiltered, and because it's close to the time of their birth, the memory of the prior life is very strong. Now, this only happens in maybe 1 out of 10,000 people. Most people don't remember their past life, or they're not conscious of remembering past life. They don't even think about that they had a past life, but they might be acting out, and more or less, we are all amnesiacs. We are people who have forgotten who we are, and we are still acting out this situation. So that's another thing to look at is amnesia cases. People sometimes have a fall and lose their memory of who they are. So they're wandering around on the street, and they just had a little brain injury, and they don't know who they are. But they can speak perfectly, and they can write, they can read, they have knowledge. They can drive a car, they can play the piano. But it's very interesting. They may not know they can play the piano. And so this is some cases, I've looked at cases like this in this life. So it's like as if you can see their past life. So they get to know who this person is. They find out who they are. They find their relatives, and they come in and say, "Who is this person?" "Oh, that's Dave. He plays the piano. He's very good. He likes to bowl and so forth." Now Dave doesn't even know his name. So you're like a person who can see into their past life, but they themselves are not aware of it. So they take these people and they sit them and say, "So, can you play the piano?" "No, I don't know." "Well, let's come over here, sit down at the piano. Let's just try to put your fingers on there and so forth." And within a month, they are like a child prodigy. They start to be able to play the piano. And they realize they might have been playing for 20 years, and they didn't know that. So all of this learning comes back, but they don't remember having learned. So you can see little models of this in this very life, how that would be, that we all come in with attitudes and aptitudes. Now, in modern times, in modern science, they don't have a theory of past life, but they have a theory of genetics. So when somebody has these talents, modern science would say, "Oh, that's genetic." The genes have the knowledge. The genetics have the knowledge from past lives. Could be 50, 100 generations, 1,000 generations. It's been kept, the knowledge is being kept in the genetic code and is manifesting. So we have to explain why is this child a mathematical prodigy? Why is this one a musical prodigy? Why is this one very social and talented like this? "Oh, well, they didn't learn it from this life, but it has to come from somewhere. It must come from the past." Well, it must come from their genetics. So we have it all we sense its reality, but it's just a different explanation. So from a Buddhist point of view, it's some sort of consciousness preserved, but in a scientific point of view, it's genetics preserved. But yes, there's many cases in there that talk about what happened when the person died. They remember what happened when they died and the experience. And maybe there's little previous or short interlife where they're in a ghost realm or something like this. They remember this, and then they remember what happened when they are born again. They see their mother actually, and so forth. They enter into the womb. So some people seem to remember this. So if you want kind of one-on-one detail without any surrounding information, Buddhist information, you can read these cases. I have a book right now, fascinating cases from Japan, going back to the 19th century. These are some cases that were recorded of young children who remembered past lives there, and they in great detail. And they would tell where they were from, where they died. So they would take them to the village where they died, and they could remember every person's name, every house, etc. So and they remember what happened when they died, and they were observing everybody, but the people around them couldn't see. So this something like a ghost idea. So it's a fascinating amount of material to see, and it accords quite well with Buddhist ideas as well. Yeah, there's a great deal of detailed information. Basically, in Christianity, there's none. because Christianity has no theory of previous life. They only have, you come out of nothing, and then you go forever, into, you die, you go to heaven forever, but you come out of nothing. So Buddhism says, well, you don't just come out of nothing. Something precedes that, and etc. And from a Buddhist point of view, also, heaven is not eternal either. It's another structure of in the series of lives. By the way, if you want more information about this online, 10 talks. I gave 10 talks with Ajahn Punadamo on Buddhist cosmology, a whole series, every level of the cosmology that's mentioned, 10 hours of talks, all with visual aids to it, with imagery and etc. We did this over a whole long period of time, and we give you all the details of how this happens. Yeah, it's on the this YouTube channel, so just search for it.
Ajahn, the next question is from the live chat from M24 from Sri Lanka. Dear Ajahn, could you clarify why meditation is not a form of an escapism from reality?
Yeah, well, that's because a lot of what people do is escapism from reality. In other words, they go to a party and drink, and they go and they do a what do you call it, bungee jump off a bridge where you got ropes tied around your ankles, and it's, you're not really going to die, but you go parachuting, you go skiing. That's just to escape reality. You escape for a while you don't remember you're going to die, Half the things we do in life is to just keep us from remembering that we're all just going to die in the end. So most of life is avoiding reality, and meditation is facing reality. We tell ourselves the truth. We are going to die. It all goes by. It's out of control. Anything can happen. We don't know when the death moment will come. We will lose everything. So this is meditation, and one of the types of meditation that the Buddha recommended for lay people, and the monks give this to lay people for their so-called meditation in daily life. I am of the nature to get ill. Sickness is the nature. Humans are prone to sickness. I am going to get old. I'm going to age. I'm going to die. And I'm going to lose everything that I love. That's the first four: illness, aging, death, and the loss of everything that I love. And the last one is, the only thing I'm left with is my deeds, whether they're good or negative. That's all I'm left with. Now that's reality. How more real can you get? Now that's meditation. It's meditation on reality. This is the reality. It's not escapism. This is like facing it. So let's go on. I've spent quite a bit of time on these questions, so we only got like 4 or 5 questions, and we're almost out of time. So next question.
Yes, Ajahn. The next question from the live chat is from Gabby from Germany. Dear Ajahn, since I seriously keep the 5 precepts plus celibacy and practice sense restraint and seclusion, the 5 hindrances are very strong and I feel depressed. Any advice?
Yeah, well, I don't know why you're doing that. Is it because you have gone to some meditation courses, or you have maybe spent time at a monastery or something like this? Because that kind of thing doesn't occur to most people. But you must have been reading about Buddhism, or maybe gone to meditation retreat or something like that. and you're kind of living like a monastic right now, but you're not a monastic. Apparently, you're not a monastic. Yeah, you're a layperson, and you've decided to kind of live like a monastic. But monastics have some benefits and support, so they choose that lifestyle, but they have friends and other people who've been living that lifestyle a long time. And these people, the senior people who have experienced, are quite happy and have learned how to live this way. And they will give you advice, and they will cheer you up as well. So that's one of your jobs as a monk. If if you have students, your job is make sure you cheer them up, because it's a radical change from ordinary human desires. And so most people would be afraid or would think that's a terrible way to live. It's not, but you need support. You need friends who understand the lifestyle, and they give you ways to make your mind lighter and happier and so forth. Learn how the beauty of this. It's a bit like taking piano lessons when you're a kid, how of the 100 kids that start taking piano lessons, only about 3 of them still are playing piano when they're 20. It's a boring. You want to be outside playing with the other kids. You don't want to be practicing the piano, and it's not musical, but your mother thinks you're good for you, and oh my goodness, and certain but if you are from a musical family where people play, they enjoy and play the piano, you understand then, oh, this is why I want to play the piano. But if it's a dry exercise that you're doing on your own, it's usually you usually are depressed and so forth, because you're not surrounded by the music of this, the joy of this lifestyle, the skills of this lifestyle. So this is why we have Sangha. We have a community to support this. The Buddha himself was special in that he found this way by himself, but he knew that most people won't. Very few people. So he creates the Sangha, and then he trains the first number of monks, and then they start training each other and so forth, monks and nuns, and they have their own communities, and they have a relationship to the lay community around them. So this is a very important part. You must have the social dimension supporting and enriching your life. Now, this is why I do this live stream, because there's not a bunch of monasteries around. Is she in Germany, is it? Yeah. So, there's maybe 3 monasteries in Germany. I don't know how many. But so we are using this medium to kind of give you community and a sense of support for these things. But again, if you're going to take up this very serious, you're going to be celibate, you're going to be in the precepts, you're going to be meditating all the time, this needs support. Yeah. We do what we can this way. We have a monastery here, so people actually come and spend time with us, and I give them personal advice and so forth. But this is the necessary community to sustain this. So you must seek more companionship. So this is called Kalyana Metta, your beautiful friend. You must have a beautiful spiritual friend who teaches you how to do this with joy. Yeah. Okay, well, that is moving towards the end of this question and answer period. So we will leave it for this week. We didn't get through that many questions, but they were all interesting. And we will be back next week again to answer Q&As and give community support for those who are tuned into this broadcast.